the one thing everyone's going to want to know is how is the development of the vaccine for the coronavirus developing?
Good morning, Alex. Thanks for having me today. Before we get into the vaccine, I just want to, on behalf of Johnson & Johnson and myself, send out our well wishes to those people who have been impacted by the coronavirus. We're certainly, they're in our thoughts and in our hearts. With respect to the vaccine, things continue to progress, as you've heard a couple weeks ago. As early as late January, when we found out the sequence of the coronavirus, we were able to identify a lead candidate with 2 backups. We are now doing clinical research, hope to be first in human by September, which should lead to a readout of the data in late December, with the hopes of producing about a billion vaccines in the early part of next year. We are simultaneously ramping up manufacturing capabilities across the globe to ensure that we can handle that kind of demand. So things are still very much on track to what you've heard a couple weeks ago.
How are you able to ramp up speed so quickly when, I mean, my understanding vaccines take years. What makes this a little different?
Yeah, what we're able to do, Alex, is rely on a platform that we've used in a number of other vaccine trials. So for Ebola, for HIV, for the Zika, we were able to use the same platform per C6 manufacturing line, which has a higher yield, and that's what's enabling our abilities to ramp up to such high volumes. It also gives us a great degree of confidence in terms of the safety as well.
A fair point. Previously, you guys have said that the vaccine is going to be sold at cost. Can you give me any update on that? Is that just for this pandemic or for the duration of the virus, or like forever?
That's right. Our announcement was to provide this at cost during the emergency. We're simply seeking to recapture manufacturing and distribution costs. We realize that the pandemic is something that Johnson & Johnson can utilize its expertise as well as our financial stability to make this available, and so that is our plans right now.
So what does that mean then for when we return to normal, but people still need the vaccine? Do you have any clarity yet on that?
Right now, we've come out with the statement of not-for-profit. So Johnson & Johnson does not intend to make a profit on this particular vaccine during the pandemic, and that's really where we're focused. Certainly, we're very responsible in our pricing. We just came out with our transparency report just last week, and again, for the 4th year in a row, we've decreased prices in our pharmaceutical sector. So we're going to act responsibly as we always do. We want to make sure that we get through the clinical trials. We've got a vaccine that is widely used across the globe to prevent any further impact from the pandemic.
As a human, I really appreciate that. Talk about then sort of your consumer products, health products versus your medical devices. You saw a drop in revenue because of COVID in the first quarter. Is your ability to grow your consumer health product going to be enough to offset medical devices? How do you see that going forward?
I would say our consumer as well as our pharmaceutical units, they're pretty much going to be in line with our expectations that we had in January when we initially issued guidance for 2020. I think you saw a little bit of front loading here in the first quarter as people, at least for the consumer products, think Tylenol, Motrin, Listerine, Band-Aids, maybe a little bit of pantry loading. In pharmaceuticals, you saw many of the PBMs change their cycles in terms of refills from 30-day to 90-day scripts. So we had some of that in the front-end loading. It won't offset entirely the medical device impact that we expect to see in the second and third quarter, and then we anticipate recovery of elective surgeries in the fourth quarter. That's how we're looking at things right now.
And the recovery for the fourth quarter for elective surgeries, does that then imply some kind of U or V-shaped recovery? How do you, or just sort of somewhat back to normal?
I would say somewhat back to normal with probably a little bit of an improvement due to improved capacity from hospital systems. We've had a chance to speak with a number of CEOs, and one of the things that they're struggling with now is just the financial challenges of being unable to perform elective surgery. That's very important to their financial equation. They're being very responsible, being prepared for COVID-19, but many hospitals outside the hotspots are not seeing that type of activity come through their hospitals, so they're very much underutilized at this point in time.
Walking forward, what are the longer-term implications of COVID, for example, like clinical trial recruitment? Is that going to be slower, tougher? Or other opportunities like biotech valuations are really low. Does that create opportunities for M&A? Can you just walk me through how J&J is thinking about the good and the bad long-term implications?
Yeah, so regarding our pipeline, we have 4 major filings planned for this year for prostate cancer, multiple myeloma, non-small cell lung cancer, as well as MS. Those are still very much on track. We connect with the regulatory authorities throughout the last couple of weeks, and things are very much on track. You could see some slowdown in new patient recruitment for new trials that are longer term in nature, but right now things are very much on track, which bodes well for 2021. So we think that's good. In terms of M&A, we do think it could present some opportunities given our financial strength. I would say there's another side to that coin. We had a divestiture gain planned for 2020. We had some buyers that submitted some bids at much higher valuations about 8 weeks ago. To their credit, they've brought those valuations down, but we're not in a position where we need to be a distressed seller. So we're going to forego that opportunity until a time when values are much more commensurate with these great sound businesses that we believe exist.
Can you give me any insight into where in the biotech realm there may be interest for J&J?
We look across all 3 sectors of our business to add to our current business or enhance our portfolio. So there's a number of opportunities out there. We looked back to 2008 and 2009 when valuations did come down and there was an increase in activity as people came out of the financial crisis. We expect that something like that could happen here.